Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump just issued a very clear message regarding nuclear weapons and then went on to highlight his plan to avoid nuclear apocalypse. You see, as we speak, President Trump is working on a plan to denuclearize some of the world's most powerful nations, including Russia and China. And here's the thing, this isn't just some random idea that President Trump came up with yesterday. In fact, he was already making progress on this before he left the White House in early 2021, and now he's picking up exactly where he left off. And folks, let's be real. If anyone can actually make a deal to reduce nuclear weapons worldwide, it's Donald Trump. But you know what? Before we get into the details of all of this, let's take a quick look at just how many nuclear warheads there really are across the world. So as you can see, the United States and Russia have the most nuclear warheads by a long shot, with thousands of nuclear weapons each. But the real concern here is China, because while they're currently behind both the US and Russia with their nuclear stockpile, they're expanding fast. In fact, current projections show that by the end of the decade, China will have just as many nuclear weapons as both the US and Russia. And this is exactly why President Trump is pushing so hard right now to remove as many nuclear weapons from play as possible. Because as we all know, the second the nukes start flying, we're pretty much all done for. In fact, take a listen to what President Trump had to say about all of this just the other day.
It'd be great if everybody would get rid of their nuclear weapons. You know, we have Russia and us have by far the most. China will have an equal amount within 4 or 5 years. And it would be great if we could all denuclearize, because the power of nuclear weapons is crazy. And, you know, I was very far along a process with Russia, despite the Russia hoax, which didn't make it easy. It was a total hoax, a total rigged hoax by some bad people. But despite that, I was very close to having a program with Russia, denuclearization, and we were going to get China. I spoke to President Xi about it, and he would have been very happy to have gone along with it. But bad things happened, like an election that was rigged happened. And so we had to come back 4 years later. But I would very much like to start those talks. The opposite of what you say, the denuclearization would be incredible.
So folks, here's the big problem right now. As things currently stand, all of the nuclear-armed countries are spending billions of dollars every single year just to maintain their nuclear stockpiles. That is to say, nuclear weapons aren't exactly cheap. But you know what? Despite the cost, every nuclear country feels like they can't downsize their nuclear arsenals because they're afraid of being steamrolled on the world stage. And this is exactly why President Trump, as both an expert dealmaker and the President of the United States of America, is making it his mission to help negotiate worldwide nuclear disarmament. But folks, here's the problem. Not every country right now is looking to downsize their nuclear arsenals. To the contrary, some countries are actually trying to acquire nuclear weapons right now. In fact, you know what? Take a look at this next clip.
What kind of a deal with Iran do you want to do? You said they cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, well, there are two ways Iran can be handled, militarily or you make a deal. I would prefer to make a deal, because I'm not looking to hurt Iran. They're great people. I know so many Iranians from this country.
Well, not the leadership.
No, not the leadership.
The
no,
people.
They're very evil people. No, but the people of Iran are great people. But they had a tough regime, and they'd meet and they'd be shot in the streets. I mean, it was a tough deal. But I would rather negotiate a deal. I'm not sure that everybody agrees with me, but we can make a deal that would be just as good as if you won militarily. But the time is happening now. The time is coming up. Something's going to happen one way or the other. I hope that Iran, and I've written them a letter saying, I hope you're going to negotiate, because if we have to go in militarily, it's going to be a terrible thing for them.
You wrote a letter to the Khomeini?
Yes.
The leader? When did you send the letter?
Yesterday.
And you said you better negotiate, or we want you to negotiate?
I didn't say you better. I
Okay.
said, I hope you're going to negotiate, because it's going to be a lot better for Iran. And I think they want to get that letter. The other alternative is we have to do something, because you can't let them have a nuclear weapon.
So there you have it. For President Trump, that is the red line in the sand. President Trump is absolutely unwilling to let Iran develop nuclear weapons because allowing that to happen would be a direct threat to his long-standing goal of reducing nuclear stockpiles worldwide, including here in America. And you know what? Let's be real here for a second. Does anyone actually believe that Iran would use nuclear weapons responsibly? Because me personally, I have some reservations about that. But folks, this is where things get even crazier. You see, just earlier today, President Trump issued one of his most urgent warnings yet about the threat of nuclear weapons, and this is something that every single one of us should take very seriously. But before we take a look at that, I want to say real quick that if you guys enjoy the daily news coverage, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton with my daily struggle against the YouTube algorithm. But with that being said, let's play the clip.
We spend a lot of money on nuclear missiles, nuclear weapons. The level of destruction is beyond anything you can even imagine. It's just bad that everybody has to spend all this money on something that if it's used, it's probably the end of the world.
Wow. I don't know what to say to that.
You know, when I listen to these climate lunatics and they talk about global warming, and they say the ocean's going to rise 1/8 of an inch in the next 300 years, and and nobody ever talks about nuclear weapons or some of the other things, but the nuclear weapons in particular right now. And they talk about the climate, and they talk about the dangers of the climate, but they don't talk about the dangers of a nuclear weapon, which could happen tomorrow. They say in 300 years, I watched Biden for years say the existential threat. He loved the term existential threat. Our greatest existential threat is from the climate. And I said, no.
Well,
the greatest is sitting in shelves in various countries called nuclear weapons that are big monsters that can blow your heads off for miles and miles and miles. And they never mention that.
So folks, let's be honest. Everything President Trump just said is 100% true. If we are going to have a conversation about an existential threat to humanity, it's got to be about nuclear weapons, because like we said earlier, once the nuclear bombs start flying, it's basically game over for everyone. And this is why it's absolutely critical that we all take Trump's nuclear de-escalation efforts seriously. And now, folks, let's be very clear for a second. Trump is the first president in decades to actually prioritize nuclear disarmament. In fact, here's the reality. No other president has taken this issue as seriously as President Trump is. And like I said earlier, if there's one person on the face of the planet who can actually make a deal to reduce the number of nuclear weapons, it's Donald Trump. Because let's face it, he's the only leader on the world stage who actually knows how to make the deal, and also he's the only one that can negotiate and enforce it. But okay, what do you say we take a step back and try to summarize all of this? Right now, the US and Russia currently have the largest nuclear stockpiles, but China is rapidly increasing its nuclear arsenal and could even match the US and Russia by the end of the decade. Because of the danger that these nuclear weapons pose, President Trump is actively working to negotiate worldwide nuclear disarmament because he actually understands that if the nukes start flying, humanity is in serious trouble. That being said, countries like Iran are actively trying to acquire nuclear weapons, and Trump has made it crystal clear that he will never allow that to happen. And so, because of all of that, President Trump just issued one of his most urgent warnings yet, emphasizing the real and present danger of nuclear doomsday. And folks, that nuclear doomsday is why President Trump's nuclear de-escalation program is so important. Because really, folks, this isn't about politics, this is about the survival of humanity. So hey, with all of that being said, folks, here's my opinion. Let's all sit here and hope that President Trump is actually successful in his goal to reduce nuclear weapons worldwide. But now, folks, before we wrap up today's video, I want to say real quick that I've actually gone ahead and made a community Facebook page where I'll be posting additional news and updates as it relates to all of this. So if you guys use Facebook, check out the pinned comment down below and give that page a follow. But everyone, that's going to be a wrap for this one, so please go down below and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video while you're down there. Like I said earlier, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for tuning in today, and of course, as always, stay safe.